This video is proudly supported by Motolita, British handmade steering wheels and accessories for your classic car. More on them later. In April, the US motoring organisation, the AAA, carried out a consumer sentiment survey in relation to EVs and hybrids. And the results, while not surprising if you're a regular follower of this channel, are still devastating for those pushing the fantasy EV mandates. Far from showing EV sentiment rising, it shows the precise opposite. Fewer people would consider an EV in 2024 than in 2023. Yes, it's literally going in the opposite direction. And note that this isn't based on frequently fudged figures of EV sales, which are often biased with massive fleet and business buyers, but the thoughts of Joe Public alone, and the results aren't pretty. What is interesting though is that people are gravitating towards hybrids, and for obvious reasons. They're more efficient, they reduce tailpipe emissions and are cleaner as a result, but they don't have the huge drawbacks of pure EVs, the charging problems, the range problems, the all-round faff and general inconvenience. Persuading the American public to buy EVs is just going to get harder and harder. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer, now Sydney-based YouTuber. Be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and please make sure you're subscribed and have enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. This is my 1970 MG Midget, and like with any classic car, the finishing touches for the cockpit are a beautifully handcrafted wooden steering wheel and gear knob from British company Motolita. Since the company's creation in the late 1950s, Motolita's name has been entwined with some of the most iconic sports car manufacturers in history, including Austin Healey, John Cooper, Jaguar, Jensen, MG, Aston Martin, AC and Rolls-Royce. Motolita's handmade, bespoke craftsmanship continues to set the company apart. Each steering wheel begins with a single piece of metal, shaped, stamped and polished for the rim and spokes. Motolita offers thousands of product variations. Wood choices include mahogany, walnut or laminate, and leather-wrapped wheels include a rubber underlay for extra driving comfort. A range of bosses are available to match your classic car, and if you are looking for something extra special, bespoke wheels can be made to your specific requirements. Combine with one of Motolita's wood or alloy gear knobs and every gear change or turn of the wheel will be a genuine pleasure, enhancing the enjoyment of your classic car. Click the link in the description to check out Motolita's range of handcrafted products and use the discount code MGUY10 when you place your order to receive a 10% discount. Hybrids are a good option if you want to do your bit for the environment, but don't want the hassle of a pure battery EV. Unfortunately, our deluded governments aren't interested in hybrids because they still have an evil internal combustion engine, and they are forcing us to make the unattainable leap from petrol and diesel straight to battery electric. Rose-tinted glasses glued on, they ignore the fact that the electricity grid won't cope, especially when it's fighting with AI data centres for power, and there aren't enough minerals and mines on the planet to provide the raw materials for a fully EV fleet. The whole thing is fantasy. Fortunately, the American public is smart enough to see through it, as the AAA reports. Is the EV hype over? Yes. AAA finds interest in EVs declining as Americans turn their attention to hybrids. The most recent annual consumer survey by the AAA on electric vehicles, EVs, indicates a decline in consumer interest in purchasing EVs. Only 18% of US adults say they would be very likely or likely to buy a new or used EV, not a hybrid, down from 23% last year. Even more revealing, 63% cited unlikely or very unlikely to purchase an EV for their next car purchase. Early adopters who wanted an EV already have one, said Greg Brannon, Director of Automotive Research at the AAA. The remaining group of people who have yet to adopt EVs consider the practicality, cost, convenience and ownership experience, and for some those are big enough hurdles to keep them from making the jump to fully electric. The AAA found the main hesitations in purchasing an EV continued to be cost, lack of convenient charging options, and range anxiety. 3 in 10 also cited the inability to install a charging station where they live. That is a full 30% of the population that couldn't possibly charge an EV at home, and would be forced to rely on expensive and inconvenient public charging stations. What are they supposed to do? Madness. Here's the chart showing the number unlikely or very unlikely to buy an EV, up a full 10% in just 1 year, from 53% in 2023 to 63% in 2024. Wow. The number of undecideds has also declined, showing a growing polarisation in the market between fanboys and skeptics. In just 2 years, the number of people likely or very likely to buy a battery EV has dropped from 25% to just 18%. Like I've said before, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it buy a hopeless EV. Accessible, reliable, affordable and convenient charging is key to growing EV interest and adoption. For people who live in an apartment or condo, at-home charging options are likely not possible. An EV might be a great choice for households with 2+ cars, but it might not fit the consumer who has to rely on their car for everyday use and travel. Indeed so, if you've got an SUV for the serious work and an EV with off-street parking to potter about in the city, good for you. Unfortunately, many are not in such a privileged position, and using an EV for everything would be painful in the extreme. The AAA believes there may be a near-term ceiling related to consumer adoption of battery electric vehicles due to their costs, charging accessibility and range anxiety. However, hybrid options could bridge these gaps, broadening consumer interest in owning an EV. The AAA survey also found that 1 in 3 US adults, 31%, say they would be very likely or likely to buy a hybrid. Access to a hybrid vehicle lessens the anxiety for consumers because it allows people to enjoy the benefits of electrification without feeling like they are disrupting their current lifestyle or travel plans, longer distance driving, less charging options, etc. I mean, this is just plain common sense, which is sadly lacking in the EV debate at the moment. This chart shows the reasons why people would prefer a hybrid, and the reasons are exactly the same reasons why EVs are so poor. Long distance travel, the absolute pain of public charging, and range anxiety. Deciding to make the leap to full electric may feel overwhelming for many consumers, and a hybrid option may be the way to bridge this gap, continued Brannan. Consumer demand will ultimately dictate the future, and my prediction is that we will have a mix of EVs, hybrids, and internal combustion vehicles in dealerships and on the roads in the US for many decades ahead. I could have written that myself. Yes, battery electric vehicles may have a place in the overall energy mix in the future, but there is no chance in hell that the fleet will be 100% EV anytime soon. This is why the all-electric or nothing mandates are so disastrous. They don't allow for a gradual migration of the fleet away from pure internal combustion cars, but try to force rapid change, which will never happen. This survey shows just how out of touch the governing elites are with the average punter. Eventually it will reach a point where the public will use the ballot box to make their feelings clear, and the result in November may determine whether these EV mandates remain in place at all.